There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. A little bit tightly framed, possibly, on the screen this morning. Let me adjust that. Oh, Mrs. M, we do need to get that with Carl Munson and special guests sorted out. It's absolutely true what it says on the screen. I'm Carl Munson, and I do have special guests this morning's. Will be Heather Binder at 9 o'clock this morning in about half an hour's time. And at 9:30 this morning, Sarah from Chambaria, near Leria. An introduction from the doc who was with us yesterday. So looking forward to speaking to them both. Chambaria describes itself, or Sarah and Steve, the hosts there, creators of the project in near Leria, or in the Leria district. I don't know how close they are to the city, but a new way of being. So very excited to talk to her about that at 9:30. And at 9, Heather's here. Boots on the ground, Portugal. Heather doing amazing work helping people move to Portugal in a very particular kind of way, very comprehensive and particular kind of way is how Heather approaches helping people get settled in Portugal. A very interesting woman and a very interesting fiance too, actually, who I'm looking forward to chatting with one of these days about one of his hobbies. For my Portugal resident column, I think, is the paper out today? My new column may be published today. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Still get a big thrill of seeing something I've written in print. So Heather joining us at 9 from Boots on the Ground, Portugal. And we'll be talking to her today. This is her suggestion about expectations versus reality when it comes to Portuguese housing. Now, we had a brief conversation with Bob and Viv because it's part of what they do. They take people up to the attic. Sounds dodgy, doesn't it? We'll take you to the attic now on your Portugal scouting tour. Look, the sunlight is coming in through the roof. Yeah, that can be a shock to some people who come from countries with hermetically sealed roofs or roofs. Some people say roof, don't they, instead of roof, like they say tooth instead of tooth. And here in Portugal, the shingles, the slates, not usually shingles, right? Those clay terracotta roof tiles, they're interlocking, and there is often no membrane. It's just those tiles to allow some ventilation. Don't get enough rain, generally speaking, to cause too much of a problem. So that's quite a shock to people. Other expectation versus reality issues coming up at 9 o'clock today with Heather from Boots on the Ground, Portugal. And talking of the doc, as we were, who introduced us to Sarah, thank you, 3Ps in the pod, for your feedback on YouTube yesterday. I always enjoy getting the feedback. Forgive me if I don't always respond to every piece of feedback that comes in on the various platforms. If you would like a response, say so, and I'll definitely respond then for sure. Or just drop me a line on 913-590-303. My preferred pronoun of communication, WhatsApp. A great community show. It was good to see the doc and Bobby O'Reilly, the progenitor at Herdad de Mayo. We thoroughly enjoy Carl and Luisa's daily broadcast and recommend GMP as the #1 show in Portugal. I've got to put that on the website. It's an actual quote. It's the #1 show in Portugal for open, honest conversation of the news and current affairs for expats and the Portuguese alike. Muito obrigado from 3Ps in a pod. Thank you for that. Really kind. Thank you for taking the time. And we open. This is a current hobby horse of mine and is likely to be for the rest of my life. The reminder that life is good. I heard a UK radio show yesterday. Promised Mrs. M I wouldn't listen to the radio on my bicycle on the way back from Campo, about 10 kilometers. I was like an Iron Man yesterday, walked for miles, cycled for miles, and what's the other bit? Drove? No, that you don't drive in the Iron Man, do you? What's that? Swimming? Yeah, swam in the sea. It was among the coldest temperatures we'd experienced, but that's because we were in the water at about 7 o'clock last night, and we had a little bit of a crowd, I think, watching us, thinking, "What is wrong with those? What is wrong with those people?" And is that the naked woman from the Good Morning Portugal show? I recommend that. Lovely flash. Right, life is good. And why am I saying that? Yes, the radio show in that I was listening to in Portugal. I listened to some of the UK phone-in shows, and there was a piece on Generation ZZ and their eco anxiety. And I was hearing youngsters phoning in their 20s talking about how life really almost isn't worth living on planet Earth. How they're not going to have children, how they're getting sterilized. And I've actually felt quite sad. I do understand what they're saying, and I have felt like that myself at times, especially when I was younger. But what is absent, I think, from this debate is this idea that life is good. And where are the old people telling them that life is good? We understand it does seem like that. And the media aren't helping you, whipping you up and smacking you down with depressing and doom-laden news about the end of the world and it being on fire and at war and everything else. We have had that for decades now. It is in many ways the dark side and horrible side of human society and history. And it needs to be said. Let me shout this from the rooftop of the Good Morning Portugal show. Life is still good. And even if it doesn't seem good at the moment, this too shall pass. And it will come good again. That's my experience. I can only tell you from my experience. And that's not to say people don't have horrible times and that human beings don't do horrible things to each other. But I tell you what, if life wasn't essentially good, we'd have been done a long time ago, wouldn't we? If hope didn't abide, if love didn't propel this endeavor, this human and cosmic endeavor of ours, we'd have been screwed a long time ago. And just something keeps us going, doesn't it? That little glimpse when you're absolutely down on your uppers and you think you can't go on. And it really does seem like that. Something, by the grace of God, something happens. Even, I don't mean this blithely or what's the word, lightly. Even death itself, passing out, we are given this faculty. Sorry, this is a bit of a rant this morning on Good Morning Portugal. Nothing to do with Portugal at the moment, but even in the worst of pain, we pass out, don't we? And in the absolute worst of times, we die. And life continues, love abides, hope abides, life is good. Is my banging of the standing on my stump and thumping the soapbox this morning. I just think it's not heard enough. It's the grandmotherly energy, is it not? Grandma telling you, look, it's okay, sit down, have a cup of tea. Granddad saying, come on, let's have a drink, let's go down the pub. People who've been around the block and can see that this too shall pass and life is good and things will get better. I think young people need to hear that at the moment. So come on, you old giffers, tell them. Good morning. Yes, look, life is good. Thank you, Anna. And I'm not saying it blithely or complacently. It is horrible at times. Living is horrible at times, isn't it? We all know that, those of us who've been around the block. But yes, thank you, João Tadok. Can I get an amen? Yes, I can, from the north of Portugal. Absolutely. And James, a vida é boa. Someone's got to say it. Someone's got to say it. Okay, thank you for your support on that. I'm never sure how that's going to go down because there is a lot of evidence to suggest the contrary, isn't there? And where is evidence? It's in that cussed, argumentative mind of ours, isn't it? Where so much of the mainstream narrative takes place in the emotional battle for the possession of the mind. What about the heart? Talking of which, 7:52, here he is. Just James, the wise men of the Gumpocalypse were in. And have I missed Coach Turner's comments again? Have they been wiped from history? Is anyone seeing those? He may well be here, or he might be on a plane coming back from Greece, actually. He knows that life is good. Bon dia, and he lives it as such. Bon dia, Gumpers. He knows growing old disgracefully is good as well, and he helps us to do that. Feliz Quinta todos from one of the wise men of the Gumpocalypse, Just James, Banana Slugs Dude. Como tem pasado? Good to see you, James. Thank you for being here. See you on Monday. Maybe we'll speak to your brother as well. That was a very compelling message that you shared from your brother, who's having a bit of a tough time himself at the moment. And he wasn't doing a GoFundMe. He is a script writer. Yeah, and he's written a book. He's been part of funny films, American Lampoon films as a script writer. You both have a great sense of humor, clearly. And if we can get him on the show, he's got some troubles going on at the moment. He needs money. And he's not begging. He's not doing I'm not saying GoFundMe is begging, but he was clear to say, I'm not doing a GoFundMe. I just like people to buy my book or watch my movie. I think we can do that for him. So, James, if you want to put more details in about your brother. And if we can talk to him, if he'll stay up early one night into the early hours of the morning in California, we'd love to chat with him. So dad joke warning, a chicken crossing the road is poultry in motion. Oh, Mrs. M is with me, laughing out loud. That joke is cluckbait.
Very good.
Wow, you're on form this morning, everybody. T-Duck, bon dia, campers, with a deep thought. Let's get straight into that then. I never bore. Sorry. That was advice to me. Never bear more than one trouble at a time. Oh, some people bear three. I thought I said bear three kids. Some people bear three kinds. Shall I start this again? Never bear more than one trouble at a time. Some people bear three kinds. All they have had, all they have now, and all they expect to have. That's a heavy burden, isn't it? Not right there, as described by Edward Everett Hale, American author, historian, and Unitarian minister, best known for his writings such as The Man Without a Country in support of the Union during the Civil War. So his words, and yes, excellent adjunct to my earlier comments. Never bear more than one trouble at a time. Some people bear three kinds: all they have had, all they have now, and all they expect to have. It's probably the most you can do or the best you can do, I suspect, is to focus on the trouble you have now and deal with it step by step, baby steps, one thing at a time, right? If it seems overwhelming, and go see grandma and granddad if you've got one. And if you haven't, excuse me, I can tell you, nature abhors a vacuum. Somewhere in your life, there will be grandfatherly, grandmotherly energy. Even if you're a grandma or granddad yourself, I'm sure you can find wise counsel if you're indeed open to it. The canes of beer today, then. Bika. I want to know what a Biko and a Beko is. Is that like a little close, a little street, a Beko or a Biko? But this is a Bika, and it's the term commonly used in certain parts of or areas of Portugal for a coffee that is similar to espresso, but extracted to a greater volume than its Italian counterpart. Didn't know that it was stronger than an Italian espresso. Bika is a bit smoother in taste due to the Portuguese roasting process, being lighter than in Italy. Excuse me, a hastily eaten toast with peanut butter on this morning. It's fighting me. In almost all regions of Portugal, it is called un café and always served in a demi-tasse cup. Aren't they brilliant? And isn't it weird the first time you have an espresso and you think you've been shortchanged or swindled? I ordered a coffee. What is this? The word bika originates from the way the coffee flows, falling from the espresso machine into the cup. Poetry. We have gone from poultry and into poetry here, of the poetry of coffee falling from the espresso machine into the cup. And you can hear the banging, can't you? And the of the coffee shop. An analogy is of water, of a water spring or fountain. Both can also be called bika in Portuguese. Loving it this morning, T-Duck. This will be immortalized at learnaboutportugal.com. Oh, by the way, if you go, can someone go there to both learnaboutportugal.com and gmpvip.com. It will help if I give you the right URL. gmpvip.com, where all of these are immortalized. If you're not, if you've not signed up, if you're not part of that, and you don't have to pay to be part of that, you can support what we do, and we're very glad that you do. And thank you to everybody who does support us. But you can get access to the basic levels of learnaboutportugal.com. But I'm concerned what people see when they arrive. So if anyone wants to check that out and tell me what goes on, and join us this morning, learnaboutportugal.com or gmpvip.com. What happens when you go there? You will certainly see these later on today. In 1905. The Café Brasileira coffee house was opened in Lisbon by Adriano Telch to sell genuine Brazilian coffee in 1905, a product generally unappreciated in the homes of Lisboetas. Were they still drinking tea at that point, like the Portuguese royals did and introduced to the Brits? How recent is this phenomenon of the Bika and the cafe in Portugal? Telch offered a free cup of coffee to each shopper who bought a kilogram of ground coffee. He knew what he was doing, didn't he? This was the first shop in Portugal to sell the Bika, a small cup of very strong coffee. And is that where it dates back to then? Were the Portuguese, the Lisboetas, not drinking coffee in that way until that point? Incredible. I'm going to treat you to one of these dad jokes already that T-Duck was sharing with us just before 8 o'clock this morning. Posting these dad jokes every day could be considered assault with a deadly weapon. Good, huh? I like that. I like that a lot. And I'm gonna follow it with this.
Warning. Warning.
Oh, no! Whoops! What? Can you do what, Mrs. M? I think whispering to me during my show, asking for technical advice, is a little bit cheeky. But yes, you can. Are you going into StreamYard to join me on the show, or just to mess around for your own nefarious purposes? It's your own nefarious purposes, isn't it?
I've created a new backdrop for you.
Okay, go on then. All right. Yeah. Well, let's see what happens when you give it a try, shall we? Okay. Don't put you on. Okay. Well, you're not bothered about being on the camera, clearly, in any state of dress or undress. Is that you? Who might that be? Who's come into the back office? Oh, is that you, Mrs. M? You've already done that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's you then. Okay, I thought it was one of our guests sound checking. More dad jokes to come a little bit later on. The cluck bait could also be chick bait. Very good. James and T-Duck riffing this morning, and Joel Denort was in with a bon dia, one and all, and hola, wise men of the Gumpocalypse, just 1 minute before opening time this morning. We are officially, who is this Facebook user? We are officially packing the camper ready for next week. Would anyone like to guess who that might be this morning? Who would that be officially packing the camper ready for next week? Are they already here and going on tour, or are they driving from the UK or somewhere else in Europe, possibly to join us here? Bon, says, say the Global Nobles, with a follow-up, Dia todos. Did you press the button a little bit too early there? Good morning to you, Global Nobles, and to Andy. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing, Andy? I think we've got our dates confirmed now, Andy. We'll be doing a little bit of filming on the Discovery weekends. We are looking at dates for your diary, everybody. And we're starting in September, and it will be the 23rd and... Oh, September. Oh, it's the fourth weekend it's going to be, isn't it? 23rd and 24th. We're going to be south of the river if a few of the Gumpers want to get together to enjoy that. Around the Aroera estate, you may have heard it mentioned from time to time, especially when Bobby's around. Come join us, hang out that weekend. But this is, those of you on the podcast won't be able to see this mischief that's going on the screen at the moment. I now look like Elton John. When are you going to land? When are you gonna come down? I should have stayed on the farm. I should have listened to my old man. Or Timmy Mallet. Not me. Glasses for you. Rose tinted spectacles. Life is good. It's called the Rose Tinted Guru. I am now officially the Rose Tinted Guru. Thank you so much for that. I've waited all of my radio, podcasting, and broadcasting career for this special moment. Thank you for such a stylish indignity this morning. Thank you so much. As I was saying, 14th and 15th of October. That's going to be a short later, isn't it? 14th and 15th, we'll be in the Alviagra area. If you've ever wondered why Alviagra is so outstanding, you can come and join us with the Austin brothers. Come meet the Austin brothers as well. Garvo and Terence, the great artist. They're both great artists in their own way. Yes. 14th and 15th then in October, a weekend up near Tomar, sampling the particular pleasures of the area around Alviagra, officially known as Alviazra, in case you were wondering, 14th and 15th of October. And then in San Martino de Porto, long overdue, a weekend in San Martino de Porto, 11th and 12th of November, around the time of the San Martino Festival here, where we drink the first of the wine, the early pressing, and eat chestnuts. And if you want to stick around and make it a long weekend, Anna will be doing one of her immersion experiences with the Baia Cultural. We saw her last night. She's having quite a dinner, wasn't she? Yeah. Of steak and chips and red wine. I wanted to be eating that. What's happening here? Jimmy Chew is busting into the studio. He's coming to my aid. He knows I'm sad when I sing Elton John. He's emotional support dog coming through. Is that you crawling across the floor again behind me? Okay. Fully dressed for a change. Okay. Jean, great to see you here. Andy, I hope those dates are good for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you for sure, Andy, on those weekends aforementioned. Their dates for the diary. Bon dia a todos. Esta imamania fresca. It is a cold one. I have inserted the temperature probe and into the atmosphere, that is. And I can tell you that the temperature inside the studio is 21 degrees, a very comfortable 21, and a cool 19.8. Now, that's cool by our standards. If we had 19.8 in UK, we'd be very happy with that, wouldn't we, Mrs. M? But it's a cold, well, not cold, it's a cool morning at just under 20 degrees centigrade in the back garden. I've inserted the probe into the back passage, and that is the current readout. And your Portuguese is coming on beautifully, Jean. Excellent stuff. Uma manhã there. Anna C, good morning. Life is good. Thank you for that. Can I get a life is good from anyone this morning? Bon dia, says Chris. Even though life is a little bit challenging on the train for him most mornings, look, I think Chris would also agree. Evidence of beauty. Thank you, everybody, for these. Evidence of beauty and love is everywhere. We are staying a stand and a space for life being good here on the Good Morning Portugal. Feel free to share your outpourings of gratitude and the joy of being alive this morning. Have a great day, folks, says Tito. I've got to leave early. The jackhammers upstairs started early today. And that is not a metaphor, a euphemism or anything like that. It's truly what is going on, I think, for poor old T-Duck there, who has to leave home to avoid the incessant marathon man-style drilling that's going on upstairs in the apartment block. The people packing the camper van, Henry, Mrs. M, woohoo! See you soon, buddy. Sent via WhatsApp. What's been sent via WhatsApp? We better crank open the WhatsApp. I haven't done that yet this morning. Let me do that. And at the risk of slowing everything down and feeling a bit sad this morning. Yes, and this is a paradox that we can cope with, I hope, here, and we'll support each other. Life is good. And yet, yes, of course, feeling a bit sad this morning. Sadness comes and goes, does it not? For John, this is my last live show for 75 days. Off to the US on Friday to visit family and friends and wrap up some business matters. Well, Geraldinot, we will miss you being in the country, and we hope to connect with you from time to time while you're over there in the US. So safe journey, and understand your American saudade there. You're putting the US in saudade. See what I did there? Looking forward to it, says Henry. Bon voyage, bon voyage, Geraldinot. Looking forward to it, guys. Same to you. Good journey, bon voyage to you, Henry. Incoming to Portugal. We'll give you a shout when we're on the road. 2-day drive down to you. We will see you then, Henry. So glad to have discovered that this morning. See, life is good. Good friends visiting San Martino de Porto. Excellent stuff. Okay, we have got I know what we need to do. We do have the quiz, but I might hold that back for when we're joined by Sarah and when we've got Heather on the screen at the same time as well. We had a little bit of clearing up to do from yesterday, things that I forgot, basically. Oh, and a visual, a naughty little visual dad joke there. Not too naughty, not smutty. I hope you understand. Loved the start of the show yesterday when I reviewed it, and we had this your higher self is calling you meme on the screen, and I managed to play a phone ringing at the same time for that. That was great. Thank you to T-Duck who found that and sent that in as well. I'm actually deleting a few things as well to make room here on the picture deck. Here is the snap that rivaled Anna's pictures in Stockholm. This is Susie's beautiful view in Central Portugal. Look at that, Mrs. M, if you will, for a moment. That is so Central Portugal, isn't it? Quiet, still. I was going to call it a water feature. It's probably a storm drain or a little bit of irrigation or drainage. But somewhere where, because of the clean water, I think you'll find a lot of water life. And that willow likes the look of it. Mortagua. Yes, Henry remembers Mortagua, I'm sure, as well. I think we met there, didn't we, on one of your earlier visits? But beautiful view there of very, very Central Portugal, that lovely morning sunshine. Thank you very much for that, Suze, for sending that in. What's this that James has sent in? A Trekkie visual dad joke. I finally... Oh, got to take the banner off for this one, and I will do that as a reveal in just a moment after we've heard the first lines from the top screen. I finally finished writing my book on penguins, Mrs. M. Okay. My publisher said it would have been better if I wrote it on paper. Oh. Actually, on that note, did you hear about what went on at Lisbon Zoo? No. So some naughty kids actually threw a penguin into the lions. Pretty bad, huh? Pretty bad behavior. I mean, they didn't even think to take the wrapper off it. That is a classic dad joke. She was hook, line, and sinker there, everybody. And but she gets the last laugh because look what she did to me on. Get those glasses off. Oh, what? Oh, you've outdone yourself. Wow. I can't say. Do you mind, madam? I'm trying to do a live stream show and podcast here.
It's Elton John for you.
What's that? Oh, I see. Is it actually called Elton John?
No, but I've made it Elton John.
I guess it is, isn't it? Wow.
Oh,
That's I'm a little bit sad too, like John, to think that I could have looked like that in the 70s if I tried harder. But then again, I was only around 10 years of age. It would have been a strange look on a 10-year-old, I think. Mrs. M, I'm in anticipation. You say that. I'm not sure if that's true or not. We shall see if Mrs. M is going to continue to taunt me in this way. I have pictures here, I see, of the night sky. You will remember an earlier Learn About Portugal quiz was about the Perseid meteor showers that are current at the moment. I did see a shooting star the other day. That is the Alqueva dark sky tourist attraction, which I imagine has different opening hours to most tourist attractions because you've got to be there at night. That is the Alqueva area in the Alentejo there, much further south than I would have imagined. Am I right in thinking that the night sky is better viewed in the north and south of the hemisphere and not on the equator, Mrs. M? Not necessarily.
I have no idea. I guess
Right.
just where there's no light.
Where there's no light is the main thing. Okay, so talking of learning about Portugal quiz, let's bring that onto the screen. And we're going to be talking in anticipation of the papal visit that's coming up. In case you didn't know that, we're talking this morning about how religious Portugal is. Has anyone been over to gmpvip.com yet or learnaboutportugal.com? Can you give me feedback from the front line? Is that working for you? What are you greeted by when you arrive there? And is it easy to see how to join and get involved with what we do over there? The quiz question then, let's go for it this morning and try it on Mrs. M. The Learn About Portugal quiz question for today, Thursday, the 27th of July. Countdown to the Portuguese papal visit continues. A clear reminder of Portugal's predominantly Catholic population and psyche. Less than 100,000 people in Portugal are recorded as belonging to a non-Christian religion, and around 1.2 million claim to have no religion. Is that an REM song? Losing my religion. I was trying to think of that, and I was going to put it was one of the videos here that I included in the question, alongside King in a Catholic Style by China Classes. The country has no official religion, yet according to the 2021 census, around 80% of Portugal identifies as Catholic, even though only about 19% of them attended Mass and took the sacraments regularly. That said, a larger number wish to have their children baptized, be married in a church, and receive the last rites, ultimately. Today's question then, just how religious is Portugal within the European scheme of things? Within the Europe scheme of things. I need to change that. The Pope in Portugal, you can find out more about his itinerary on the link that's provided there. But I think the voting is looking pretty good so far. 9th out of 34. Would you agree with that? So we have a little address from the Pope, not directly to the Good Morning Portugal show, but him talking about his upcoming visit to Lisbon and Cascais. Is it 9th, 19th, 29th out of 34, or does it take the top spot? And some good guesses so far. Mine is an educated guess, says Tony. Barak says 9th, and Maria Jose F says, I think the most religious would be Polish people. Do you agree? Do you want to go over there and check that out for yourself? Heather should be joining us soon. It's at times like this, when I see that the time of arrival has come and our guest should be with us, I'm going to send her a quick hola, bon dia, just to see if everything's okay. She does like to get set up in quite the not theatrical, but she's very organized. She's got great attention to detail, and I dare say that's what's going on with her broadcast preparations right now. Ooh, that's scary, Mrs. M. The WhatsApp blue ticks are not there. Okay, let me go see if I can find her via. Oh, she is here now. That's amazing, isn't it? Wow. As soon as I was getting concerned, she felt a disturbance in the force. So I'll give her a moment just to get figured out behind the scenes there. She is just figuring stuff out, I could see. But thank goodness she is here. As James said the other day, I'm choosing to feel sad and don't want to feel otherwise at the moment. There you go. It's a sadness because I'm grateful for all we've experienced and enjoyed and will soon once again, we've got a little bit more of a comment, but I'm sure we'll soon once again be experiencing contentment and joy. Well said, Joao de Nort, and well said, James, as well. It's the observation and realization of the sadness, isn't it, rather than the total identification with it. I think I'm not sure, but I would say that would be the case. Hit that like button. Give us a thumbs up, if you will. Is that a thumbs up from you, Heather? Are you all ready to rock and roll? Excellent stuff. Just a few more comments in and we'll bring it onto the screen. Looking forward to it is Henry. He'll be with us soon. Here's the other wise man of the Gunpocalypse with the God Squad tip of the day. Travel is a very tiring thing. So make sure you have suitable rest on arrival. Also drink water rather than anything else if flying. Yes, you Brits, as it has a very dry atmosphere and booze is dangerous. Is that on airplanes? Though I'm sure, what's this, Coach T? I'm sure we've all done it. Yes, indeed. And you have.
I've missed a plane.
Missed a plane getting drunk?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
You lush. Didn't know about that. Oh, and it's Alcava, I think we're finding out from Antonio. Thanks, Antonio. Always happy to receive the pronunciation notes. The U is mute in Alcava, not Alquava, like those great British cheesy crisps, like in Kia and Ki. So Alcava, thank you very much for that. Perfect. And bon dia, Antonio, to you from Jean this morning. Let's give her a big round of applause just as she's popped something in her mouth to eat. Let's see what happens now.
Good morning.
Hola, bon dia, Algria.
Bon
Heather,
dia.
hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm in medieval garb for you today.
Well, that is an incredible costume with some brilliantly strategically placed ornaments.
This is a Viking apron dress.
Wow.
Hi, Louisa. And this is so good because I was at the medieval fair and festival in Obidos last night, and I was like, oh my God, like I have to go home and like take a shower at like 2 a.m. and like do my hair. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go in garb and then I can cover my hair.
What a brilliant idea.
What a brilliant
idea. Yeah,
but
that is super.
These are handmade beads. These are, I don't know if you can see them, but they're bird motif. These are period, like accurate reproductions of Viking period, whatever these things. Brooches. I forget what they call this whole like thing.
And are they borrowed from the fiance, or are those your particular ones?
Oh no. This is women wear this Viking apron dress.
Okay, sorry, I hope I haven't
my guy wouldn't wear a Viking apron dress. You wear a Viking, but that would be like a tunic and pants and leg wraps and stuff like that. A little bit different. Yeah, they wrap with fabric like the calves down. And so anyways, I thought it'd be fun to promote the festival, and I'll be there again Friday night, and it's been a lot of fun, and we love medieval stuff and obviously do medieval recreation stuff. And I even brought something. I brought this Viking drinking horn, which you might recognize. And I'll drink cider and stuff out of this and wear this on my belt. Oh yeah. And,
you have so much fun at the medieval. It's not a show exactly, is it, or an exhibition?
A fair, festival, or yeah.
So tell us more about that. So you're up until the early hours of this morning, eating chicken, throwing chicken bones around, chickens running around, dogs running around, people clashing, drinking horns together, cider being spilled everywhere. Is that the kind of vibe that's going on at Obidos at the moment?
Pretty much, yes. And cider and beer and shots and like the whole nine. So it's fun. It's a good time.
Any meat being consumed?
Meat, yes, and not as much chicken, but lots of ribs and sausages. Lots of sausage.
Forgive me. A mead with a D. The
mead, not meat.
Not meat. I'm sure a lot of meat.
No, they should have like honey mead because that's appropriate, but they just have sangria and cider. Basically, if there's mead there, somebody would have to tell me that because I have not seen anything advertised like that. I don't think most people know what mead is.
No, I don't. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's a bit of a specialist drink, that, isn't it? But what a great idea to brew from honey. I think people who have studied Robin Hood might know of mead because Friar Tuck, I think, was
True.
mead maker, was he not? But this is amazing. And it continues. I know they had one at Alfezarão, not far from me, and I've got some
Yes.
videos that I will play at some point, because they went to such an effort at Alfezarão. They dug a lake. They built an observation
Wow.
tower for the jousting.
Oh,
They built a
wow.
stand, like a medieval stand for the crowds to sit in and watch. Maybe the dignitaries and the people who were dressed up as king and queen. And all for, I think, one weekend. Now, similar preparations go on at Obidos, of course, Heather, but they've got the ready-made backdrop there, haven't they, of the most incredible. It's a village,
They have
isn't
the
it?
siege
It's perfect.
tower, they have the castle, they have, all the cool things. And Obidos, we live close to Obidos, and we just love it and think it's a magical place. But we also are really excited to go to some of the other fairs, because
Yeah.
the people that do the medieval stuff here, that's what they do. They like go to all these, make like the tour. And so it's pretty cool. There's one coming up in around the Veiru, south of Porto,
Oh, yeah.
Santa Maria, I think.
Okay.
That one's coming up in early August. Aljubarrota, the Battle of Aljubarrota,
Yeah.
which my fiance will actually be fighting in, and he fought in last year as an Englishman, helping the Portuguese beat the Spaniards. And so that was really cool.
Yep.
And yeah, that's actually really awesome because there's guys on horseback. It's a reenactment of the famous battle of Aljubarrota, and it's really neat. It's a day thing. It's not really like a 10-day thing, And I believe it's the 13th of August. No, it'll be the 14th. I think it's
Amazing.
August 14th. It's that weekend.
Isn't it
But
incredible? If you go to Aljubarrota any other day of the year, you're thinking,
there's
there's
nothing going on.
a little shopping centre here, isn't there? There's a car park, and there's
Yeah.
azulejos to let you know that something important went on there. But you'd never really know, would you? And it's utterly transformed, presumably, on the day.
It is. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. There's like this mean bread lady that chases you with like
Bread
a
lady, we love
broom.
her.
You remember the bread lady? Yeah, you've been. Okay. So yeah, that was super fun. And somehow or another, because we had never been before until last year, and somehow or another, I was with friends because of course Kevin was, fighting and doing the thing. And
Fantastic.
we managed to have like the perfect spot because it's like that bowl that comes around, and all the horses at one point were standing there, and all the horses in medieval stuff and the guys on them and the whole nine are running right towards us, like directly towards us. I actually have video of it. I have to find.
Love to
And
see that.
it's really cool. And then, at the last minute, they make their turn, thankfully. So I'm still here today. And I'm not eating, by the way, cough drops because
Oh, you got the
my
reposado
throat.
out, have you?
No, I'm okay. I'm okay, but my when I talk a lot, or I'll get a tickle sometimes. I have
You
my
and me both.
handmade
Oh, look at
goblet.
that!
I know. Woo! But it's empty right now. So anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I know. Well, I didn't want it was a tough morning.
That's bad luck in Portugal to have an empty You need to get some wine in there soon.
That's okay. We'll
What
survive.
happens, Heather? I need to backtrack a little bit, but I want to ask you how you feel when you're dressed up in this way, because it must evoke something. But we need to talk about Mean Bread Lady, because some people will, some people won't know the story behind that. But when they were routing the Spanish in retreat, I think, she offered some of them a place to hide in her bread oven, didn't she?
I think so.
Come this way, boys. I'll look after you. No sooner were they hiding in the oven, she shut the door and did away with them. I think, and then she smacked a few others with her great big bread, the great big
broom.
The broom,
yeah, or the stick, the whatever. I don't know what you call that.
Stick,
yeah,
yes, where you're moving the loaves in and out of the oven, and she stuck it to them, didn't she?
She did.
And that's reenacted as well, isn't it? This Mean Bread.
It is reenacted. It's quite fun, and the woman who does it's awesome, and yeah, it was really good, and it's been really awesome here to be like welcomed into the, these historical communities and stuff like that, and be able to go to these events, which anyone can go to. You don't have to be dressed up. You don't have to have, the handmade fancy costume or anything like that. But of course, it's fun if you can rent costumes, not at Aljubarrota, but like at the medieval festival, the big one, Obidos. You can rent them and things like that. So
Superb. And so what I want to ask you is, when you do that, when you put the gear on, does something get kind of released? Does it make you, is it like method acting where you actually start to feel the part?
I would say, well, first of all, the clothing generally is really comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I was wearing a 14th century German dress, gown, whatever, last night, and I didn't even have to wear a bra with it because it's like
Well,
tight, and
integral.
it's self-supporting. So it's like, they were made that way. So that was really nice. It was really quite comfortable. Once I could get it hooked, which is the tricky part. Yeah, because you don't have anyone to help you get dressed. It's not like, you have a
Oh, so
dresser or
you do
somebody.
need ladies in waiting.
A lady in waiting would be very helpful, because I tried to get Kevin to help me hook the front of the dress, because like I'm okay here, I can see, but then below the boobs, like you can't see. So you're in the mirror, and
I'm so glad I asked.
It's tricky.
I mean, the life of a 14th century German woman just sounds a little bit challenging, quite honestly.
Well, I'm not. I mean, these were hook and eye closures, which you hook one and then another one comes undone, and it wasn't that bad, but it was still a little tricky.
But you didn't start talking German or anything like
that? No, I don't do like accents and stuff like that. I mean, that's probably more like Renaissance fair where people are being paid and stuff like that. It's just, which you can, don't get me wrong. And then we in the United States, and eventually in Europe, are part of the SCA, which is the Society for Creative Anachronisms, which is basically people that do this for fun and not like being paid and not like putting on a show. Yeah. So we do events and wars and all this kind of stuff. But the community in Portugal is not established yet. We have some people moving here that are interested, but at this point, like, you mostly have to travel to actually go to events and stuff like that. But it's so cool here because we're actually doing it at castles, whereas a lot of the time, and whereas in the US, in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, we had like hay bales, and like we're in like empty fields, and a lot of fun, but it doesn't have the mystique of actually being in castle grounds and the whole thing. So,
and you're never more than half an hour from a castle here, are you?
Yeah, I'm 20 minutes, 18 minutes, I think, to Óbidos.
Isn't it? So a natural backdrop here in Portugal. Did you call it? Is it the Society for Creative Anachronisms?
Yeah.
Fantastic name for an organization. And I thought it was an ironic title of the Society for Creative Acronyms, the SCA. But it would have to be a much more complicated and creative acronym.
Anachronisms, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right, it's a worldwide organization, and it's been around since I think the 60s, something like that. And so it's really cool. And my first event was the first time I came to Europe, so it's kind of pretty neat. In 2012, I went to a war. We call them wars, instead of like fairs or festivals.
Wow.
I went to a war called Double Wars in southern Sweden, in Malmo, Sweden. And that was amazing. It was my first time in Europe. And the people in Europe do like everything is handmade, and like amazingly handmade. And I'm not just talking machine made, I'm talking like hand sewn, and you can really see the difference in the clothing and everything like that. And so it's just really neat. And so hopefully we'll be able at some point to kind of spread things over to this part of the world. There's things that go on, but it's like France and Spain and stuff like that. So
cool.
Yeah, but it's really fun, and there's
just sounds amazing, Heather.
Archery. You can do like some archery stuff at Óbidos with our friend Orlando, who people may recognize because he's the guy when you go to Óbidos, who's like dressed in armor. You can take pictures with and stuff. That's Orlando, and he is a great guy. Works with Óbidos, and actually has a fighting school and trains people to actually do medieval combat, and that's really neat. So, yeah.
Oh, I absolutely love it. Thank you so much. That's very thoughtful of you to come with the garb and to tell us.
Lazy, thoughtful,
Well,
whatever.
this works on so many levels, doesn't it? Apparently, the Vikings attacked and looted the Iberian Peninsula in the 800s, 900s, and thousands. And at the Villarinho de Bairro, thank you, Bairandi. Good morning to you. Hola, bon dia. Medieval festival in Anadia. There's one in Anadia, and they are lending medieval costume to the public for free. See the Gumper map, which you can find via goodmorningportugal.com. And if I was dressing up and I had a goblet like yours, I would be wanting to shout things like, "Barkeeper, charge our goblets, for tomorrow we ride and we may die, but tonight we no, you wouldn't say we party.
Tonight we drink, right?
Tonight we drink and celebrate and fornicate." Yes, and you, sir, I shall run you through with my steel. I mean,
you have the accent and everything. Like, it's just, perfect.
Yes, this is, of course, the perfect segue. Talking of Portuguese housing, I think a Portuguese castle, the one at Obidos, does classify as Portuguese housing, an early variety, and one that experienced a home improvement. I think the Queen wanted some of that running water, didn't she? And said to the King, "Get me an aqueduct," and he did it.
Yeah, there's an aqueduct there. There's the fountain, right by some great restaurants right there, and up the way is the castle itself, and it's pretty amazing. So. And I know some people that live in a house inside the castle walls.
What's that like?
Or the exterior. It's very glamorous sounding. I think in reality, it's cold and moldy and difficult, probably.
It's just authentic medieval, isn't it?
It's authentic, yeah. Like, if you ever thought of that, like, I'm gonna go stay in like a stone hotel and blah, you can do that. And I'm sure that they do things to, temper all of those things in that sort of situation, because there's a fancy hotel there and stuff. So not like that's bad at all. I'm sure it's very posh.
You have to adapt,
version.
Maybe that's where the leg wraps and other such. Why did they dress like that? That's why they wore 27 layers, because it was flipping moldy and damp in those castles. Okay, well, this does lead us into what you wanted to talk about today: expectation versus reality. And the reality of living in a castle, obviously, is a little bit damp and moldy.
I think so.
And it's not quite as bad as that in some Portuguese homes, but it's different. It's different, isn't it, to what a lot of people are expecting? So what were you hoping to share with us today on that basis?
Well, I brought I have a couple things here. By the way, please ignore my backdrop because my house is kind of tore up at the moment, but it's dark, so you can't see that well.
Having a reenactment in there, is this?
No, because my mom passed away and everything, and we moved my dad into assisted living, and so I had this whole house downstairs where I had a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to get it prepared to Airbnb, and because it's separate, from my house upstairs. And so I'm just, when you die, you leave like so much stuff. It's like ridiculous. I mean, not my dad is still alive, but like he didn't obviously take all the stuff with him. We moved him with what he needed and wanted and his furniture and everything. But so I have like a lot of stuff that's not crap. It's good stuff. But
that's the tricky stuff, isn't it? And the sentimental attachments to it, perhaps, as well. Yeah.
I'm trying to be realistic because I've given a lot away to friends and stuff. And that's been really helpful because you can't keep someone's stuff. You cannot keep all of their stuff. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to pay storage or stick it in my garage for it to get ruined and be there for 30 years and then someone throw it away, Mm-hmm. So I'd rather it have continuing life and get a new home and whatnot if I can't keep it. But, my house is only like 100, 120 square meters, like 1,000, 1,200 square feet, basically. So, it's much smaller. Downstairs, my parents' place was like 1,900 square feet or 180 square meters approximately. I know my math is wrong. And so, they had a much bigger space. And so just a lot more stuff, So anyways, the stuff you see is stuff that I have yet to fully
I didn't even notice.
Okay.
Your dazzling garb has distracted us. And the other thing to say, Heather, is when you do open an Airbnb, you are going to be the most incredible hosts, aren't you? Because you can actually serve some of the, if people want some room service, a night could actually deliver it. You called more mead in the Airbnb annex, please, or the Viking wench brings some extra coffee for the machine or whatever. Fantastic.
My mother never let me use the kitchen because she had a lot of anxiety about keeping things clean. And so I did not cook until really recently. And I'm still like not trained to cook. Like it's not my natural thing. It's like a whole lot of effort and thought and the whole nine. So I'm not going to serve you a lot, but I got ginger and I got port. And so I can get you liquored up. That's no problem. I can serve drinks.
To me. You're going to get the most amazing Airbnb reviews with that approch. Definitely. Sorry, no food, but I got loads of booze. Yes. Excellent.
Yes.
We had such a good time in Obidosh.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry.
Well,
So back to expectations and realities then.
So I want to show you a couple things that I found recently. I had a plumbing, I'll call it an emergency, but it was outside the house. So it wasn't flooding the house. This is a good news. Oh. And this was last weekend or weekend. I think it was last weekend. And so anyways, it was just yet again, one of those weird things where we called the city. I should say my Portuguese speaking friend, to be fair, called the city and I mean, she works with me. And so Sarah called the city and luckily guy just like answers. There's not like a 1-800 number or like a emergency after hours number. The guy on call just answers. And so they sent out a crew of a couple guys who got there really, really fast. And because out by my water main, if you will, it was just like water gushing and it was going down to the drain. But obviously it was water I'm paying for, right?
Yes.
And wasting. So anyways, they came out and turned it off. And then the guy pulls this thing out. And this is the thing.
Oh, yeah. You said you were going to show us something and you clearly are. Hold on. Let me give you full screen to see if people can guess what it is. Okay, so got a little guessing game.
There we go. Boy, this left-right thing messes with you. Yeah. Okay, so this thing is cracked, as you can see.
Yeah.
And then there's this.
Is that string?
It is. It's super strange.
Right. Okay.
It's like a paper towel roll wrapped with a whole lot of yarn.
Right. I mean, yes. So I'm going to hazard a guess at filtration of some sort. Apparently,
yes. So this is on the, the main water coming into the house and this screws in, it's got a housing on, and it screws into this thing. And then apparently all the house water passes through this because when this crack happens, you lose your house water. So we didn't have water for, a day.
And all out of that thing.
Yeah. So, but it was cool. My contractor said, go to MRF, Manuel Rodrigo Francisco, I'm probably saying that wrong. MRF in Caldish. So they have a lot of construction stuff, DeWalt tools and stuff like that. Anyways, they have grout there. It's a good place to go if for lots of things. But I went there, brought my old one. Guy just was like, okay, and we just did the whole thing in Portuguese or my lack thereof, or very small. And it was great. And this thing was like $22 or something like that. So I was like, awesome. And then, but there is a housing that, obviously plumbs it in. And so I decided I wanted it all replaced because the housing that this thing had, first of all, doesn't necessarily thread onto the old housing perfectly, as well as the old housing is also like 20 some years old. And so if this happened to that, that plastic is also weak. So the day or two later, my contractor sent out a plumber who replumbed that, into the line of the house. So it got fully restored. But we did have water for, once I got this, we're able to hook up and get water. But anyways, this is just like really weird.
Maybe, Heather. Maybe it's a Reiki blessing implement. It's nothing to do with
know. It's yet another thing. Like I've lived here, I've lived here 2 years in Portugal. I've been in the house not quite 2 years, but October will be 2 years. And it's like a relationship, like
Yes.
I'm with Kevin for like 7 years, and one day he just picks up a guitar and starts playing like Adele, and I'm like, what?
What?
When
Yes.
did you? How do you play guitar and like Adele? And he's really good with his ear. He can play by ear, and
Yes.
not like amazingly, but like he gets by quite well. And so, anyways, it's just one of the things you're like, wow, 7 years. I thought I kind of knew everything, but no,
Yeah.
you just never do. So I feel like houses here, houses, period, are like that,
Yep.
But my experience, obviously, as a real estate broker, um, in Arizona for 28 years or whatever it's been, uh, doesn't lend itself to these sorts of systems. This
Well,
is
you've never
like
seen anything like it in your life,
I have
basically.
never seen anything like this. So it's not, it's just weird. Just one of those weird.
And is that the old one?
That's the old one that's cracked.
How
Yes.
is it so clean if it's had the
I don't
water
know
put
that.
into it?
Well, the clean one, it's the water comes from the city, and so it's clean, and it comes in, and then it's filtered.
Yeah.
Um,
But sometimes the water comes out the tap brown, doesn't it? For some reason, you'd expect that filter after 20 years to be a little bit more soiled than it appears.
I don't know. We're in the country. Our water's really good.
Well, I'm pleased for you. It's just so odd, isn't it?
That's
Um,
weird. Yes.
For 7 years, you wondered why there was a guitar in the corner of the room.
There
Was
wasn't a guitar in the corner of the
there,
room, but I
Stephen?
forget where we were somewhere, and like a guitar happened to be, and there you go. So yeah,
Well,
all of a
that's a
sudden.
lovely little bit of a relationship insight for everybody this morning, Heather, isn't it? That any minute your partner might start serenading you with an Adele song, whether you like it or not, basically,
Well,
and that that
yeah.
that, that could happen, couldn't it?
Yeah, it
Incredible.
definitely could. It definitely could. Did you
This is
notice
terribly
that I
surprising.
even changed my eyewear for you today? I don't know if you noticed.
I did appreciate the original Viking
These
spectacles.
these these are not period. I wear these when I do my steampunk stuff or my medieval stuff, just because the cat eye glasses that I normally wear, if
Yes,
people
yes,
are
yes.
familiar with me, are new old stock. They're from the 1950s. They're like legit old, but new
Right.
frames, because I feel like I look best in that shape, and that's really what got me going with it to begin with. But these
Right.
are your good old, like, glasses I had before I found cat eyes many years ago.
Right.
And I have old frames for emergencies and stuff. And then I had these, and these are good because they're just very, blend in and go away. And they're not like the cat eye.
They're not statement. They're not statement
They're not
spectacles.
really a statement. And so that's good because, cat eye doesn't really lend itself
You don't
to
want that.
Viking.
You don't want your Rolex or your spectacles to be distracting from the original Baroque, medieval, Renaissance, or Viking garb that you're adorned with.
Right.
Heather, we will have Sarah McGuinness joining us in just a little while from Chumba. I'm going to find out if it's Chumbaria or Chumbaria,
Okay.
near Leria, and it's. I'm sure Sarah will have something to add to this conversation of expectations and realities of Portuguese housing. But was there anything else you wanted to add to this, as well as your incredible water filter this morning?
I brought one more thing to show.
Yes, please show us.
Which
Show
a
and
lot of
tell.
people, if you don't have a dryer, then this is going to sound whiny because I'm going to whine about my dryer.
Right.
But a lot of people are moving here and are buying dryers and so forth. Excuse me. And this is a weird thing because I get this new Bosch dryer set, and everything's going and doing its thing, and then all of a sudden it just stops working, and there's some flashing thing on the screen, and like, what is going on? And then I don't one of my friends, I think was probably Sarah, was here and was like, oh, did you empty the water thing? And I'm like, what? And in the United States, your dryer is plumbed into the line that your washer, the wastewater.
Right. And it gets rid of some. It actually sucks out the moisture and pipes it away.
It drains it. I mean, it does the logical thing, which is this thing is
Makes
there
sense.
to pull water out, and therefore it needs to drain.
Yeah.
And in my house, it's on an exterior wall, so it should be able to vent outside, which it doesn't. And it should be able to drain into the plumbing line that is there for the washing machine, but it doesn't. And it also doesn't dry worth a crap. So yeah. But I do have an awesome electronics mom and pop in Caldish folks, and they can help people get like I don't know what the system is. I know the steam inverter thing is what like people use here, but honestly, it doesn't dry clothes. I have to dry things for like over 3 hours and they're still like damp. So
no, look, you should have guessed something was wrong then, right? Especially if it's
no, it's not wrong. It's like how these things work. It's super dumb.
No.
I don't know. Maybe I need to go.
What is wrong with the balcony for drying clothes? You've not got into the Portuguese way, Heather, clearly.
I am not going the Portuguese way when it comes to my clothing because I am one of those people who will forget, first of all. And second of all, I do live in the country and we're at the top of a hill. So we get more breezes and stuff like that. So I don't really, want my clothes strewn all along my outside and
flying itself to Caldas, right? Okay.
Yeah. Now Kevin in his place, because he lives above me, he does air dry, but he has the whole rooftop, so he can put his stuff on the rooftop and everything. So he does dry outside. So yes, I did not bring the Portuguese way with me when it came to drying clothes. So anyways, this weird thing.
What is that? It's part of the Starship Enterprise coming into your screen now.
I know. It slides out from the dryer. It has a hole in the top.
Yeah.
And it collects water out of the clothes that you're drying.
Heather, that hasn't been full up in your machine for the last 2 years, is it?
No, because it just stops working. By the way, I want to clarify the dryer thing because I actually was perfectly fine with not having a dryer. But my parents flipped out.
Okay.
And they were like, hard limit, we have to have a dryer. Now, granted, they didn't do their own laundry, but
but they insisted upon it anyway.
But they were like, we have to have a dryer. Like they were like vehemently like, yeah. So the dryer happened and it's down in their space. And now I'm a little spoiled, sort of, except for if I put one up here eventually, because I'm not using that space. I'm not getting this kind. I'm getting the good old like whatever the heck we use in the United States in the way of a dryer because it actually dries your clothes. So
yes, well that's helpful, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Kind of the point.
All right. So you had an issue? Did the mom and pop store in Caldas sort it out for you? I'm not with you.
Yeah, they're awesome. So originally I bought this thing from like Radio Popular and Wharton, they're kind of jerks. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know about these people. And then I met these people after I had bought my stupid washer and dryer because they would have explained stuff to me. And so it's Ana and Paulo from Vicente Electrodomésticos. So Vicente
everybody needs one of those. Yes.
Yeah, and they're great and they're wonderful and they it's just a whole different level, like, because you deal with Radio Popular, like Sarah says there's something
Radio Unpopular, as they're known by most people.
Yeah, they're kind of douches. And I bought tons of stuff there before because I didn't know there was alternatives. And but I always send people to Ana and Paulo because they're wonderful people and they do animal rescue and they're just super cool and they're local and we want to support them and all of that good stuff. But they're also like save you. Like I had a fridge, not from them, came with the house and it was like starting to go. And they came, Paulo just shows up, comes as an emergency. I didn't even buy it from him. Came and was like, hey, it's your seal. It's getting worse, blah, blah, blah. And, it just took care of me. And that's like the complete opposite of what they do, at the big stores. So
well said. So get to know your local electrodomésticos and all other small businesses here in Portugal. They will look after you that way.
Right.
And actually, funny enough, it does take a little bit of getting used to, isn't it? All that kindness and goodness from people who run their mom and pop stores. I suspect our next guest will have something to say about this. She describes her move to Portugal as a whole new way of being. So I'm intrigued to find out more about that. Let's give her a nice round of applause and bring it to the screen. And Mrs. M, could you check out of here? Because everything's slowing down for me on this side of things. I need to get this off the screen so we can see everybody and say good morning to you, Sarah. How are you?
Good morning. Bon dia.
Bon dia.
Good morning. Bon dia.
My processing is a little laggy this morning, Sarah. So I just need to take this off the screen so you're not just talking to a pair of mouths here.
There we go.
Screen. So yes, great to have you here. Thank you, Doc, for introducing us. And as I found more about you, I was thinking, permaculture, a whole new way of being, a different way of life, moving from the UK to Portugal. Please tell us more about it. And is it Chumbaria or Chumbaria?
It's chambaria.
Chumbaria. Nice.
So what possessed you to come and live a whole new way of being from the UK here and now here?
It's a very long story.
That's all right. We've got ages.
A bit of a crazy journey. We decided in 2018 that we wanted to leave our comfortable life in the UK and start a whole new uncomfortable life in Portugal, basically.
Why?
Just leaping into the unknown. We had a fairly comfortable life. We raised 3 kids. They were all sort of flying the nest, and we didn't really like the way the UK was headed. So we decided on a whim that we would move somewhere else. And we'd never been to Portugal, but we'd been to Madeira for our honeymoon. So we thought, okay, let's go and check Portugal out. So we came on some recce's and looked up in the north and in the south and in the central, then found the Silver Coast, then found Leiria. And I did loads of research online at home. Originally, we were going to buy a small house with a sort of ruin to convert into an Airbnb and a bit of a acre of land so we could be more self-sufficient, do our bit for saving the planet, etc., etc. And then one day this advert popped up on screen and it just said, how would you like to own your own village? And that was it. So we didn't actually physically look at any other properties, and we came here, and it sounds a little bit corny, but I just felt like I'd come home. So we ended up not with a small property, with a village with 10 houses to convert and 7 acres of land that we've been regenerating following the principles of permaculture. We knew nothing. We knew nothing about permaculture before we started. But my husband did a permaculture design course at a really great place near Sintra, and he's currently studying for his diploma so that we can run permaculture courses here. So that's it in a nutshell. It was a bit of a just like, let's get out of the UK. And as soon as we came here, we just fell in love with Portugal, the people, the kind of diverse scenery, the slower pace of life. And that's it in a nutshell, really. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous this morning. I should be used to being on camera, but
What have you heard about us, Sarah? What have you heard about us that would make you nervous? I wonder.
I was talking to Andy, the doc, yesterday. So that's what
that always makes me nervous as well. Yeah. Right. Well, this is amazing, and that's you've got your YouTube channel clearly, which people can subscribe to and watch this unfolding story. And this is the stuff of dreams, isn't it? And possibly nightmares, to be fair as well. We were talking about the expectation versus reality before you joined us. And this fits beautifully into it, doesn't it? Because a lot of people are thinking, buy a village in Portugal. That sounds fantastic. 10 houses. I think Mrs. M likes this idea. That's one for each of the kids. There's one for the indoors.
One for me, one for my husband.
One for the cat, one for the dog, and then one for the chickens. And it's like, wow. And then we could do an Airbnb, as you said. Has it turned out quite like that in reality?
The reality is it's a journey of exploration, is what I would say. We've faced some very, very big challenges along the way. We've learned a lot about Portuguese bureaucracy for a start. But we arrived and it was COVID, so everything was kind of shut down. So we got behind on our planning permission and stuff. That took quite a while to come through. About a month after we arrived, my husband had a serious motorbike accident and broke his leg really badly. Ended up with, I think, 31 staples. So that was quite difficult. Oh, there's one of the dogs. We've got some rescue dogs up here. That's not a very good shot of our eagle. I've had medical problems, which I've been dealing with over the last year, but I've just been given the all clear and I'm in remission. So that's really fantastic news for me.
Hear it, Sarah.
That's great.
I think the biggest thing is last week, and we just put up a little video. We've only just started on YouTube, but we put up a video about it. We got completely wiped out in an absolutely massive forest fire. And basically lost everything that we'd done on the land over 2 years, was wiped out in a matter of hours. So challenges along the way, and then learning how to work with Portuguese builders. That's another thing that we've got a really great team of builders. We really love them, but I do say to them each lunchtime, are you going to lunch for an hour or are you going to lunch for 2 weeks? Sometimes they go for an hour, sometimes they go for 2 weeks.
I saw a hilarious little sort of TikTok, first day of building. Hello, boys. Welcome. Do you want a little Sagresh mini cup of coffee? And then come Friday, saying what you said, Sarah. Will you be going for an hour lunch or 2 weeks? And it kind of it changes, doesn't it? As life goes on, as you get to know them better.
Yeah, and it's they're great. We could have just got in what we've really tried hard since we've been here. We arrived September 2020. We've worked really hard to integrate with the local community, and if you do that, then the support is phenomenal. And so instead of hiring like a big sort of firm of builders, we've gone with local builders. And I don't think there's any photos yet on our website, but the standard of work is incredible, and they're lovely people and they're really funny, and you just have to get used to that's a sweet potato. You have to just
eye-watering sweet potato right there.
That's the pretty big sweet potato. So you kind of just have to get used to a slower pace of life. I'm not saying it's not frustrating sometimes, because obviously our plan is to create a kind of eco retreat, a permaculture teaching centre, and we can have different workshops. We're just starting to offer one-day workshops as an introduction to permaculture. We're offering workshops for kids with natural crafts and also for adults as a kind of ecotherapy, dig deep back to nature kind of thing. So we've just completely changed our lives, and it's I have to say, apart from some ill health stuff, which was unfortunate, we've both been so much happier and stress-free since we arrived. Even if the builders go for a 3-week lunch break, you just
Is this one of the loaves you've baked yourself as well?
Well, one of the integral parts of Chambaria is that we host a lot of volunteers. It's a very big project and we've got a lot of land. So we started hosting volunteers. I'll get to the bread. We started hosting volunteers in 2021, and so far we've had over 50. And that was one of our lovely girls, Matilda. She baked the bread. Incredible. So at the moment, we've got a lovely couple here from Jordan, and we've got a return volunteer from the UK, and we've got another couple arriving next week from Belgium.
Amazing
Nice.
Stuff. My goodness, look at these beautiful pictures. This is one of the 10 buildings on
that's my husband's house. He lives over the road in his
man cave there,
his little workshop.
Incredible. And
I'm like tired just seeing these pictures. I mean,
you've done a renovation.
That's like a huge. Well, I did it.
You've done a lot of work, haven't you? And that's on one building mainly. And this is a little wearying for you, is it, to see the scale of this? Look at that.
Well, my house was actually in good condition, mostly. A lot of what we did was cosmetic that, I did to get it to my parents' kind of standards, if you will.
Yeah.
And so, this is like, Yeah, that's a different level. That's not
That is a different level,
cosmetic.
You should, I wish I had a photo. You should see what that looks like now. That one with the burnt bit just is the first one that we've been renovating.
I like that.
And it now has the most beautiful polished concrete floor. It's got a beautiful mezzanine, and it's got a roof, a ceiling. I'll send you some photos. It's like a work of art. The craftsmanship is incredible.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, no, it's a big, I think we're a bit nuts because it is a really big project.
Yeah, of course you are. But
yes,
you literally have a village, haven't you? It's a little hamlet, isn't it, in Leiria?
Well, it's actually it's quite famous in the district. It's one of the it's actually classed as a village. The bit that we own is the main hub, but sort of further along the lane, there's other ruins that were part of Chambaria, and it's I think the earliest documents that we've been able to trace back is like 1444, but it's been around for a long time, and it was its heyday was at the beginning of the 1900s, and it was owned by a guy who was called Manuel Raimundo, and he was one of 7 very famous entrepreneurs for resin, and he used Chambaria as his kind of processing centre. He had farms all the way up to Porto, so Chambaria was used as they processed olives and wine, aguardente. They had pigs, goats, ox, horses. They grew maize, corn, and it was known in the local area as the kingdom because it was just such a wealthy kind of village. And at any one time, there would be about 40 people living and working here. So it really was like a real hive of industry. And
that is what it takes, isn't it? I mean, on this matter of expectations and reality, this way of life that I think a lot of people would find, appropriate and want to aspire to, this new way of life that you're talking about, the crazy way of life that we might experience in North America, UK, that you and I have escaped from, Sarah, in many ways.
Yes.
You think, okay, this would be so much better to live in a kind of more rural idyll. But you can't just make a shift, can you, from being a couple who lived a sort of modern lifestyle into one of the 15th century without those 40 or 50 people. And you found them, in a sense, through volunteers and woofing and those workaway and that sort of thing, have you?
Yeah, we decided to just go with woofers, and so that's where we've had our woofers from. We've had them all ages from all over the world, and so far we've just had lovely people. I mean, inevitably sometimes there's a few dynamics that that's just life, but we've managed them. Yeah. And the biggest thing that I think our accomplishment with volunteers is that we've managed 50 over the years, and we've only got 1 bathroom. So that's
oh my goodness! Right, now you say over the years, Sarah, as well. I mean, you've only been here 3 years, haven't you?
Yeah, we've been here 3 years. I mean, a lot's happened. As I said, my husband broke his leg a month after we arrived. That was pretty difficult. Then we had a lot of problems with our neighbours' goats that were marauding through our land, and my husband broke his other leg a year later.
Chasing goats?
Chasing the bloody goats. Anyway, that's another story.
Wow.
I want that, when this book's written, I want that as a chapter title. Chasing the bloody goats. Chapter 5.
Those goats, honestly, we all got really good at goat herding, but luckily we've now fenced everything off, and the farmer, he's sold his goats, but we've now got a herd of cows that just wander willy-nilly all around the place.
Having breakfast, and then there's one looking at you right there in the kitchen. Yeah, I can imagine. But it's 3 years. It's not a long time in the scheme of things. Certainly when it was the kingdom.
2 broken legs in
2 broken legs,
3 years on top of it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just broken legs. Oh.
And also, it's not about medical stuff, but for medical reasons, I also had to have all my teeth removed, which was really quite traumatic and a very long protracted recovery. And then sadly, I think it was September, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. So I've been having surgery and radiotherapy. And as I said, luckily I'm in remission. But one of the things I would like to mention here about transitioning, I can't say it with my teeth, is the standard of the healthcare that we've had from the state healthcare has been fantastic.
Yes.
I can't fault it. They've been, especially with the language barrier, and we've been learning Portuguese, but I think it's going to take me about 20 years before I'm fluent.
I thought 10, but 20 is not unrealistic.
The village will be renovated before that happens, right?
Well, I'm kind of thinking we decided we'd build an eco retreat, but I think by the time we get finished, it's going to be a retirement community. Just because
there's tons of people looking for that.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
tons.
Aren't there, just Heather? Yeah, Heather will be meeting these people who are signaling that for maybe 15, 20 years' time. There's certainly scope for these disused and old villages in Portugal to become where people live together, but not on top of each other, share resources in the permaculture way, Sarah. And that's another fantastic aspect of what you're doing here. Phil Ruff, he's into a bit of, he's not far away from you, actually, Heather, or any of us really, in Gayrish. Aguardent, is that not moonshine for the US?
Oh, God, don't get me started on Aguardent.
Literally. Although I imagine you must have felt like it at times. Sounds like fencing might be useful, says Phil. I heard that fencing limits the hunting as well. Without a fence, others can hunt on your land. That's an interesting point made there. Why is permaculture so important to you, Sarah, and to husband, Steve? It's Steve, isn't it?
Permaculture is really important to us because it's all about regeneration and self-sustainability and low carbon footprint. But I think it's summed up in the main three ethics, which is earth care, people care, and fair share.
Yep.
So it's not something that's just for farming. You can use those ethics in any model of life. It's just about caring for the planet that we live on and, trying to regenerate the land, which we're doing quite successfully. We've had some amazing harvests and it's great eating our own food. The people care, well, that's just, we just try to be kind to everybody and look after everyone that comes here. And the fair share is if we've got too much produce, we share it with our neighbours, we share our knowledge with our volunteers. So it's kind of just a really nice, simple ethos of a way to live a nice life.
Fantastic principles. And they are quite Portuguese as well in their way, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think Portugal lends itself and is naturally a sort of a permacultural backdrop. Not in all places, if you look at eucalyptus and pine. And is that what you meant by resin before? Is it tree resins that this early chambaria owner was dealing in?
Yeah, he had, sadly in the fire last year, all the original pine trees and olive trees were completely wiped out. I mean, we lost absolutely everything. I think if you look, there's a diary page on the website that if you look at July last year, you'll just see how we lost everything except the buildings, which was quite frightening. But the resin was used, it's got really good antiseptic qualities. Yes. A lot of it they made into what is it, turpentine,
right,
that kind of stuff. So but they grew a lot of other stuff here, and that we've still got the original wine vats where they would have stored the wine.
Incredible. Did you see that a Guardian news yesterday? EU passes nature restoration law in knife edge vote. Phil shared this with me, actually. EU has narrowly passed a key law to protect nature, a core pillar of the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's European Green Deal. After months of fiery debate and an opposition campaign, scientists criticised as misleading. The nature restoration law will place recovery measures on 20% of the EU's land and sea by 2030, rising to cover all degraded ecosystems by 2050. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? Especially if you see it in conjunction with some other moves in Portugal to repopulate the interior. We've got, you're doing this, aren't you? You're taking life back to the land in a way, bucking the trend, reversing the trend. The globalized trend, of course, is to move people into cities. And in Portugal, we see that in the two big cities and the coast. 60% of the population is in just that line, isn't it, from north to south? And there's all this beautiful interior in Portugal. And I know there are some initiatives to have that repopulated, but people don't really want to be there. Well, they do want to be there, but they can't be there. They don't know how to be there and make a decent life and survive. You're modeling this, aren't you? I mean, presumably you got fiber and the things that people want to have themselves connected to civilization, but with a nice distance away from the prospect of the 15-minute city and all that sort of stuff as well. Would after all you said, Sarah, would you still recommend this to people as a direction of travel for humanity and for people who fancy this idea?
Without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, we sold a standard 2-bedroom house in the UK and bought an abandoned village in Portugal. And I think I wish I'd maybe done it like 10 years ago, but our kids weren't old enough and everything. I mean, they've all been out here. In fact, my daughter is now living here with her husband. She's living in the next village, which is just far enough away, which is just good for me, just that far enough away. But I've got I think sort of here, what I've noticed as well is there's a lot of interest, and with the locals, they're like, why did you come here? Why not go to Lisbon? Why not go to Porto? But Leiria is absolutely beautiful. It's a really happening city. We're only like 20 minutes away. We just had the medieval festival at the weekend. There's always a festa going on somewhere or other, and using the local builders and stuff like that. I think, we're employing people in the area. When we're up and running, we'll create jobs. And I think also people around here, they do think we're a bit nuts, but I think they like us. But because we've been being filmed the whole time as well, that's kind of really generated interest. And I'm seeing more and more people starting to move to this area. So I really
that's amazing. That is worth knowing, isn't it? That you can live in this way and only be 20 minutes from a major and happening city as well. That's fantastic. Garvo's in this morning. Good morning to you, Garvo, saying this is the trouble I find with restrictions on age and health. If only I could have done all this 20 years ago, then I could have done so much more. However, even with my limitations, I love it. And this is the message, I suppose, coming back from Portugal now, isn't it? Around the world, it is possible. Sarah's doing it. Steve's doing it. Despite all the setbacks and challenges, Gary, you're doing it. Jason, loads of people in our community are modeling this slowly but surely. And maybe we are giving some hope to Gen Z, who seems so depressed and upset at the moment with what's going on in the world. So much so that they can't see a point in living almost. Hopefully seeing pictures like you've seen from Quinta da Chumbaria this morning will give you some hope and inspiration, and to jump earlier. So that's what you said, Sarah, isn't it? You'd have done it sooner if you'd known.
If we'd known that this was going to be such a long, I mean, we have faced challenges. Don't get me wrong. The fire last year, absolutely. I don't know how. I think both of us were like, well, shall we just sell up and buy an apartment in the Algarve and lie by the pool drinking daiquiris all day? I think we kind of got to that point.
Wow. Daiquiri threshold.
Sorry.
The daiquiri threshold. We've all been there.
But I do think I think every day is different, and there's always someone coming through here. There's either people, neighbours that come and are curious. There's people that have heard about it. There's volunteers, and just going back to making a difference. Martin and Esther are here from Jordan, and they've got a little permaculture project going, and they want to have woofers, but they thought they'll try woofing first to see how it works. And Martin said the other night that actually he feels like he's just making a little dent. And I said, but if there's a lot of us making a little dent, then there's a lot of little dents going on. And I think on the woofing site, there's 120 organic farms or permaculture communities in Portugal itself. So there's a lot of us doing this, and quite successfully.
Absolutely wonderful and inspiring to hear from you this morning. We've got a couple of dad jokes. We've got a poem as well to finish with on the life is good theme, the overwhelming message of the show this morning. Despite setbacks, ill health, fires and so on, there's just something compelling, isn't there, about being in tune with nature, with life itself, Sarah, that perhaps has got you past the daiquiri moment there and has kept you in Leria. I've got an idea, Heather. What do you think if there's an official opening of Quinta Chumbaria, the Quinta da Chumbaria, Chumbaria, beg your pardon. I've confused myself.
Chumbaria. I love the name. It's great.
Well,
Yeah,
if they have can we have a reenactment of the 15th century? I mean, I don't know if you saw earlier on, Sarah, but Heather and fiance Kevin, they go to these various wars and festivals and medieval gatherings dressed up in the appropriate garb. You can have a sort of period dress reopening at
15th century is a little late for us, but definitely 12th to 14th in that range. I definitely have clothes in that range. Let's put it that way. So yeah, for sure. That you're only about an hour and 5 minutes from me, which is interesting. And yeah, Leria is great, and the castle there is awesome. But what you're doing is really amazing. And at any age and any circumstance, regardless of fires and broken legs and cancer and all of that, and all of that stuff is just, humbling and makes me feel lazy. So it's really impressive. That's amazing.
Yeah, agreed. Well said, Heather.
And I would like to say, we are actually going to have the first Festa, Chambaria Festa, in September to mark our 3 years. And just before we moved, I answered an ad from a production company for New Life in the Sun, and I messaged them and said we bought a village, and they then created a really popular series of 20 programs about projects like ours around Europe, and that went out last year, and we've just finished filming series 2, and that's going out in September in the UK, but it is being shown all over the world. So if anybody's interested in following our journey from the beginning, it's called Help, We Bought a Village, and you can find it on the official Channel 4 Lifestyle YouTube channel.
That's amazing, Sarah. So people can keep in touch that way. And your YouTube channel. Go on, Heather.
Oh, I have a question. So I know when you build within the footprint of a ruin, you don't have to get permits is kind of the general thought. Did you guys build outside of that? Did you have to get permits for things? I'm just curious.
Because it's such a big project, we had to get planning permission, and there's certain things on the footprint that we haven't been able to change. But we originally put it in as one big project, and then halfway through we kind of changed our minds. Sorry, that's Stanley, who's the size of a horse. That's why he's barking so loudly. We halfway through, we changed our minds and put each house in as an individual article, so that if we didn't get it finished before we were in like mobility scooters, we would then be able to turn it into a retirement community. So pretty much what we've been able to do with our architects is keep the inside of the village as sympathetic to the original village, but on the outside, which has the most amazing views, putting great big windows and things. It's quite incredible what we're creating up here. We're pretty proud.
Well, I want to come to your events. So yeah, you need to publicize that. Yeah, you're an hour away. I can come. Absolutely.
Please let us know when that's happening. Yeah, if the party, I mean, it'd be great if we could live stream from there as well, Sarah, on the day. It'd be wonderful to come and see you and meet you and see what you've been doing there. I've put the video link that you can see on the screen there. That's your YouTube channel, of course, as well, so people can subscribe to that to stay in touch. A couple more comments and then a few dad jokes before we go on our way, and a poem from Owen this morning. Been lovely hanging out with you through the centuries, Heather, and with you and this incredible work you've done in just 3 years, Sarah. We have a comment from Phil. Life is based on your purpose. Pool drinking shortens your life. So, taking on this endeavor and a passion and the permaculture may well be life extending, of course. I think whenever you invest passion into your life, it does have its dividends. Linda and I have had quite a few meals from our own produce lately, fresh, organic, and grown with love. That's priceless, believe me. You can resonate with that, can't you, Sarah? I saw the lovely produce that you created there.
Oh, the using our own, not using any pesticides, anything like that. Using our own compost that we're making. The quality and the taste is just, well, I don't know, it's just out of this world, really.
It is indeed a new way of being, you could say, which is how you summarised, isn't it? Your move from the UK to Portugal, and we wish you all the best with that. A little bit of a warning: we do dad jokes here, so sorry about these, but these might be good to. You can try these on your woofers, can't you? Just to check the various senses of humour from people around the globe. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And the warning here is: posting these dad jokes every day could be considered assault with a deadly weapon. My wife is upset about my desire to be a TV news anchor. More on this after the break.
Stop it, you idiot.
And that'll work, won't it? And I left, look at this, very topical as well. Thank you, T-Duck, for this one. I left Twitter for Threads. Now it's my ex.
Okay.
You have to be right up to the cutting edge of social media to understand that one.
Brilliant. Yeah. Definitely.
Might not be.
I don't know if I am.
All right, superb. Lovely to meet you, Sarah. Great to see you again, Heather.
And you guys.
Get in touch with Heather for all help moving to, pretty much all bases covered when it comes to moving to Portugal with Heather.
Visas. Yes, primarily helping with visas.
Well,
but yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And get in touch with Sarah. If you want to volunteer at Chumbaria, then what's the best way to do that, Sarah? How do people get in touch?
You can just get in touch with us through the website. The website is chambaria.com, and you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram, and obviously we've got the YouTube channel as well. And I really advocate the WOOF organisation. They're really, really good guys, and you can approach us through them as well.
Funnily enough, it was the first podcast ever recorded in Portugal in 2007. Was talking and interviewing to some woofers in Central Portugal. So here we come full circle. Thank you both for being so inspiring and brilliant this morning. Nice big round of applause for you, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
There goes Sarah, and there goes Heather. I think because my button's a little bit slow this morning, I think that's worked, doesn't it? It's just me on the screen now. Mrs. Emma's been messing about again in the background. Is this for me, Mrs. Emma? Is this going to work, or are we still having trouble? I don't know. Everything has slowed down to an almost standstill here. It's almost like life in the Portuguese countryside. The birds flying backwards. Anyway, I've got another treat to share with you before we go, and that will be Owen's poem, basically, that he was inspired, I think, or it's certainly connected with what we were saying earlier on. Life is good despite the ups and downs, the roller coaster ride, essentially. Hope abides, life is good, love is the answer to everything and powers everything from behind the scenes. And here is a poem inspired, or certainly in line with that sentiment. Cheers, Owen.
Life is good. In the tapestry of life, a symphony of delight, where each thread weaves joy and paints moments so bright. From the rising sun's golden hue to the moon's gentle beam, life whispers softly, reminding us that all is as it seems. In the rolling meadows where wildflowers dance, life blooms in harmony, offering a cherished chance. To breathe the fragrant air and taste nature's sweet kiss, where every heartbeat echoes with sheer bliss. From the babbling brooks that serenade the tree, to the towering mountains that stand tall and free, life's wonders surround us, a breathtaking sight, a reminder that everything is bound by delight. Through laughter shared with friends, a bond so true, life reflects the beauty of connections we accrue. In warm embraces and hearts filled with fire, love radiates and kindles our every desire. In the depth of silence, when thoughts intertwine, life whispers its secrets, a lesson so divine. To cherish every moment, for it swiftly slips away, but leaves an indelible mark as memories gently sway. trials and tribulations that shape who we become are stepping stones to growth, and victory is won. For in the face of challenges, strength emerges and thrives, teaching us that within us, resilience forever lies. Life's tapestry may have its share of shadows too, moments where tears fall and skies may seem askew. But through darkest nights, stars will surely ignite, guiding us towards hope, shining oh so bright. So let's rejoice in the beauty that surrounds us each day, for life is good in its own remarkable way. With open hearts, let's embrace its endless gifts and cherish every step as this journey uplifts.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.